So many people have asked me, what happened? Tell us what happened, please. And therefore, I will tell you exactly what happened, and you'll never hear it from me a second time because it's actually too painful to tell.
I want to talk today about what I found to be the highlight of Trump's RNC speech last night, which was the moment where he got personal and a little bit emotional, where he discussed his own experience, his own recalling of the assassination attempt, as well as when he honored Corey Comperatore, especially the moment where he actually brought Corey's firefighting outfit onto the stage, talked about him, went over to hug him. And if you don't know who that is obviously the father, the man who died heroically at that Trump rally, shielding his wife and children from bullets. So, folks, if you enjoy the content, be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. But let's once again play and go over what I found to be the highlight of the RNC speech and maybe the whole RNC in general. Take a listen.
Came within a quarter of an inch of taking my life. So many people have asked me, what happened? Tell us what happened, please. And therefore, I will tell you exactly what happened, and you'll never hear it from me a second time because it's actually too painful to tell. In order to see the chart, I started to, like this, turn to my right and was ready to begin a little bit further turn, which I'm very lucky I didn't do, when I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear. There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that. The amazing thing is that prior to the shot, if I had not moved my head at that very last instant, the assassin's bullet would have perfectly hit its mark, and I would not be here tonight. We would not be together. The most incredible aspect of what took place on that terrible evening in the fading sun was actually seen later. In almost all cases, as you probably know, and when even a single bullet is fired, just a single bullet, and we had many bullets that were being fired, crowds run for the exits or stampede, but not in this case. It's very unusual. This massive crowd of tens of thousands of people stood by and didn't move an inch. In fact, many of them bravely, but automatically stood up looking for where the sniper would be. They knew immediately it was a sniper, and then began pointing at him. You can see that if you look at the group behind me. That was just a small group compared to what was in front. Nobody ran, and by not stampeding, many lives were saved. But that isn't the reason that they didn't move. The reason is that they knew I was in very serious trouble. They saw it. They saw me go down. They saw the blood and thought, actually most did, that I was dead. They knew it was a shot to the head. They saw the blood. I'm not supposed to be here tonight. Not supposed to be here.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yeah. Thank you. But I'm not. And I'll tell you, I stand before you in this arena only by the grace of Almighty God. In watching the reports over the last few days, many people say it was a providential moment. Probably was. When I rose, surrounded by Secret Service, the crowd was confused because they thought I was dead, and there was great, great sorrow. I could see that on their faces as I looked out. They didn't know I was looking out. They thought it was over. But I could see it, and I wanted to do something to let them know I was okay. I raised my right arm, looked at the thousands and thousands of people that were breathlessly waiting, and started shouting, "Fight, fight, fight." Thank you. Once my clenched fist went up, and it was high into the air. You've all seen that. The crowd realized I was okay and roared with pride for our country like no crowd I have ever heard before. Never heard anything like it. For the rest of my life, I will be grateful for the love shown by that giant audience of patriots that stood bravely on that fateful evening in Pennsylvania. Tragically, the shooter claimed the life of one of our fellow Americans, Corey Comperatore. Unbelievable person, everybody tells me. Unbelievable.
You know, I thought a lot was achieved by the RNC this week. I think it was a largely successful convention, but I think its most important accomplishment is the way that, not just in this speech, but the entire week, humanized Donald Trump, because that is, of course, the big struggle is most independent Americans, and I mean Americans who live maybe a little bit out of the partisan bubble, they are genuinely undecided, they are reachable. You know, I think the truth is a lot of normal Americans do agree with Donald Trump on the policies, but their issue with him is the things that the media says. Oh, his personality. Oh, but he did J6, all this stuff. He's such a evil, big, bad bully. He's a con man. I think in many ways, this speech and also just a lot of the other touching speeches at the RNC this week, you heard Eric Trump, you heard Lara Trump, you heard, for instance, the Gold Star families of the Afghanistan withdrawal or his friend from real estate who both talked about how, no, Trump is a very genuine human being. Trump cares. Trump took the time to console me in my time of grief, etc., etc. These types of stories, as well as seeing Trump personally get a little bit different for once, right? A little bit non-normal Donald Trump. I think that did a great job in doing the last breaking of the dam that needs to be done with the American public, which is, look, over the past 4 years, you have been vindicated on the policies, on the ideas. The polls show that, right? You are more popular than Biden on immigration, on the economy. But the thing that some Americans, for some reason, cannot get over is your big, bad, mean, evil personality. But I think what has happened since the assassination attempt, and I don't want to glorify what happened, but in some ways it's true from an analytical perspective, this is indeed what went down, right? Is that Trump, suddenly now he's a human being. And you saw him at the RNC. He's a father. He's a grandfather. He's a person who genuinely cares about other people. He cares about this country. And maybe that's something we want to remember, right? Because a lot of people out there, I know some, they say, I agree with Trump on the policies, right? Maybe they've become more conservative in the past 4 years because things have gotten so crazy, but they're like, he's just not a man of character. My response, firstly, is always, you think Joe Biden is a man of character? Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, like none of these career establishment politicians have any character to begin with. So I don't know if you want to get into a character measuring contest when you know, that's the other side of this. But even on that front, I'm not here to defend everything about Donald Trump as a person. I'm not saying he's some type of perfect human being, but I genuinely think he's a lot more real, a lot more caring, a lot more compassionate of a person than at least people make him out to be. Right? You may not like him. You may think he's arrogant. You may think he's a little rambunctious. I don't think he ultimately is this ego-driven, psychotic, self-serving maniac that he's made out to be. Because if that were true, then more people from his personal life would have bad things to say about him, right? But instead, you always hear the opposite stories of people who meet Donald Trump. What do they say? They say, he's actually a really nice guy. He asks me questions. He cares about me. He remembers things about me, right? He was there in a time of grief, whether it was the real estate guy talking about that or the Afghanistan Gold Star families. This is the real Donald Trump in many ways. He's not a perfect man. He's not Jesus Christ, obviously, right? But ultimately, at his core, whatever his flaws are, he's a man who deeply cares about people. He cares about his country. You saw that in the assassination attempt on Saturday. You saw that in that very moment, right? A truly selfish, ego-driven maniac. If Donald Trump is the selfish coward that everyone makes him out to be, he would have scurried off with his head down, right? When those bullets are flying. Instead, at his own peril, right? Risking his own life to do this. What does he do? He turns to the crowd, tells them, he wants to make sure that they know he is okay, and he wants to send a message to them to keep fighting. That is the real man that I believe Donald Trump actually is. You saw it in that moment, right? That's the moment that tests a man's character. It shows who you really are. That's who he really is. Just something to think about. You go into November, you say, oh, well, policies, Trump is right, but I don't know if I agree with the character. That's the character. Think what you will of it, right? I'm not saying he's perfect. That is his character. Maybe it's not as bad as you think, is all I'm saying. That's it, folks. Be sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let me know your thoughts. And until next time, God bless and peace.